Welcome to Overheard Story. Sit back, enjoy the story, and feel free to leave a comment after. Even a few words matter more than you think. You're not seriously worried about that, are you? That's what she said. The moment I held up the receipt. Shaking a little, not from anger yet, just confusion. She glanced at it, gave a half smile, and tossed it back in her bag like it was nothing. Like I was the one acting strange for even bringing it up. But let me back up. It was a Thursday afternoon. I come home early from work. One of those rare half-days where your boss feels generous and the weather practically dares you to take advantage of it. I figured I'd surprise Casey. Maybe pick up some sushi for lunch, hang out for an hour before she headed off for her weekend spa retreat with the girls. That's what she told me it was. 3 days of yoga, wine, and no boys allowed. Totally normal, right? We trusted each other. Or at least I used to think we did. She was upstairs finishing packing when I spotted her tote bag on the kitchen counter. The tan leather one with the gold zipper she always used for travel. I was reaching for gum, nothing more. I wasn't snooping, not consciously anyway. I was just looking for a piece to chew while I waited for her to come down. That's when I saw the corner of a receipt sticking out between a travel toothbrush and her makeup pouch. I probably wouldn't have noticed it if it hadn't been half-folded like it had been shoved there in a hurry. I pulled it out, expecting maybe a Starbucks order, a Target run, something like that. But it wasn't that. It was a booking confirmation. Sandberry Resort. One of those upscale beachside places that advertise sunset couples massages and private fire pit dinners in all their glossy brochures. At the top was the name Randy Hall. Not mine. The check-in date? This Friday tomorrow. The checkout date? Sunday afternoon. The same exact weekend she said she'd be out of town with her girlfriends. In the comments section at the bottom, it read, "Don't forget to bring champagne bottle with popping cork," with the emoji, like it was supposed to be fun. Felt like the room shifted under me. Now, I know what people say, don't jump to conclusions, don't assume the worst. But it wasn't just the name. It wasn't just the matching date. It was how careful she was trying to be, how neatly the whole thing was hidden in plain sight. She hadn't just tossed it in there for no reason. And something about the handwriting scrawled across the printed confirmation. A little note in the corner that said, "Pack light warm at night," made my stomach churn. That wasn't meant for me. That wasn't from me. I heard her footsteps upstairs, drawers opening and closing, the sound of her humming lightly. Happy, light, carefree. I looked down at the paper in my hand again, folded it neatly, and waited. She came downstairs 10 minutes later wearing yoga pants and an oversized hoodie, hair up, face bare. She looked peaceful, calm, like a person without a secret in the world. When she saw me standing by the counter, she smiled. "Hey babe," she said. "I'm almost ready. Just need to grab my charger." I didn't say anything. I just held out the receipt. She looked at it, tilted her head slightly, and said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world, "Oh, that's for Randy. I helped him book a trip last month. I think that's just an old version I printed for him. Must have gotten stuck in my stuff. I told him he should take someone special there, and he said he would." She chuckled, shook her head, and added, "It's so random that you found that." I stared at her. She didn't even blink. Randy. I didn't know a Randy. At least not one she'd ever mentioned. I waited for more, an explanation, some detail, something to connect the dots. But that was it. That's all she gave me. I asked as calmly as I could, "So why is it in your bag?" She shrugged. "I was showing someone at work. Gina asked about resort ideas and I remembered Sandberry, so I pulled up the reservation to show her. I probably just stuck it in there afterward." She moved past me, grabbed her charger from the wall, and zipped up her bag. "Seriously, babe, don't look at me like that. There's nothing weird going on. I'm going to the spa this weekend, just like I told you. Gina, Melissa, and Taylor. You want me to text you when I get there?" I didn't answer, not because I didn't want her to, but because suddenly I didn't believe I'd get the truth either way. Something had already shifted. It had been shifting for weeks, if I was honest with myself. The late yoga classes, the phone always on silent. The screen flipped over when it buzzed. The way she suddenly became protective of her laptop, Like even the idea of me glancing at it was an invasion. The new skincare routine. The new lingerie I hadn't seen her wear around me. The way she laughed louder when I wasn't in the room. I hadn't said anything about it before. I didn't want to be that guy. Paranoid, insecure, controlling. So I pushed it down, chalked it up to stress, to change, to getting older. But this? A weekend getaway booked under another man's name? During her girls' trip? No, that wasn't paranoia. That was a crack. A clean fracture in the glass. And it wasn't just that she lied. It was how easily she lied. Like she had rehearsed it. Like she knew the receipt might come up and already had the lines ready. I didn't call her out. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't accuse her of anything. I just nodded and said, "Okay, that's all." She kissed my cheek, said she loved me, and headed out the door with her bag over her shoulder. Like nothing had happened. Like she didn't just leave a small, silent explosion in the middle of our kitchen. I watched her car pull away from the driveway, taillights disappearing down the street. Then I turned and stared at the spot where the receipt had been, still lying open on the countertop. The name, the date, the emoji. She really thought I'd just swallow it. She really thought I'd forget. But I'm not blind. And I'm not stupid. I'm patient. I cleaned up the kitchen, turned off the lights, and sat in the dark. My mind spinning. I wasn't even sure what I was looking for yet. But I knew this wasn't the end of it. Not by a long sh*t. This was just the moment the curtains started to part. Just enough to glimpse what had really been playing out behind them. After that weekend, everything slowed down. Not on the outside, but in my head. The strange how clear the world becomes when you stop assuming the best. For so long I wanted to believe in her, that she was loyal, that I was just imagining things. That if I ever caught myself doubting her, it said more about me than it did about her. But that receipt cracked something open in me. And once the crack appeared, everything else started leaking through. I didn't go digging, not right away. I didn't tail her or start checking her phone like some jealous man on the edge. I just paid attention. Closely. And man, once you start paying attention, it's like you can't unsee it. That Monday, she came home late from yoga. She was flushed and glowing, but not the kind of glow you get from working out. I asked how class was, and she paused, just for a split second, before saying, "Oh, it was good. Kendra couldn't make it, but I went anyway." Thing is, Kendra had texted me the week before about planning a group dinner. She'd mentioned she hadn't been to yoga in over a month. That's when I realized Casey had stopped name-dropping the people she used to go with. Now it was just vague. "I'm going to yoga. We're grabbing smoothies after. I might hit the hot tub." No names, no photos, no details. And when she came home, her phone stayed in her jacket pocket. Always. Not charging on the kitchen counter like it used to. Not tossed on the couch when we watched TV. Now it was either face down or hidden completely. When it buzzed, she'd glance at it quickly, then slide it away like it didn't matter. At first I told myself it was just work stress. Maybe she was planning a surprise for our anniversary. Maybe she was texting her sister about something personal. I gave her all the benefit of the doubt I could afford. But then came the passwords. She changed them. I only found out because our Netflix logged her out and I asked her to sign back in. She hesitated. "Wait, didn't you already have the password?" I asked. She laughed it off. "Yeah, I just had to update it. They made me reset everything last week." Weird timing, huh? It wasn't just Netflix, though. She changed the iCloud login too. The shared Google Calendar we used to track errands, gone. Our shared Spotify, suddenly accidentally signed out. Even the little things like bathroom habits changed. She started taking calls in there. I'd hear her voice, low and rushed, like she didn't want the water to drown it out too much. Then silence. Then the flush, even when she clearly hadn't gone in there to pee. Once, I walked by and heard her whisper, "No, it's fine, he's downstairs." That one stopped me cold. She came out 5 minutes later with a towel wrapped around her head like nothing had happened. "Oh, hey," she said, drying her hair with one hand. "Did you grab more shampoo? We're out." Just like that. Normal. Casual. But the worst moment, the moment that really stuck, was a Wednesday night 2 weeks after the receipt. She came out of the shower, wrapped in a robe, her hair dripping. I was sitting on the bed reading, barely looking up, and I noticed a mark on her collarbone. A faint, purplish bruise. Circular. Not a huge one, just enough to catch my eye. "What happened there?" I asked. She looked down like she'd forgotten it was there. Then, without skipping a beat, she said, "Oh, I knocked into the hair dryer when I was plugging it in. Stupid thing fell off the counter." I nodded, but the hair dryer had been on the floor that whole week. She'd left it there, tangled in the cord right next to the laundry basket. She hadn't even used it lately. I remembered, because I tripped over it that morning. I didn't say a word, just stored it away. Another tile in the mosaic. At night, she didn't fall asleep in my arms anymore. She started wearing that old college t-shirt again, the one 2 sizes too big that she only used to wear when she didn't want to be touched. She'd curl up facing away from me, scrolling her phone until she thought I was asleep. One night, I faked it. I lay there, listening to her breathe, still and shallow, while she typed something out in the dark. Then I heard a soft voice recording. Just a few seconds. Then deleted. I don't even know what hurt more, the idea of who she was talking to, or the fact that I didn't recognize the sound of her laugh anymore. We stopped kissing, stopped joking. She stopped asking me how my day was. Her eyes didn't light up when I came through the door. She used to run and hug me if I brought home dinner unannounced. Now, if I brought Thai food, she'd just say, "Oh, you didn't text first. I already ate." Some nights, I'd stay up just sitting in the living room with the lights off, watching the hallway, listening to her footsteps, wondering if she was texting him, or if he was in our home without me knowing. I started checking the driveway for tire marks. I started smelling her hair when she got back from errands, trying to detect aftershave or cologne I didn't own. I didn't tell anyone. Not yet. Not even my brother, who usually hears everything first. Couldn't. Part of me was still hoping I was wrong, that I'd wake up from whatever this fog was and she'd look at me the way she used to. But that man, the one she used to look at with fire in her eyes, he wasn't me anymore. At least not in her world. One night, I sat at the kitchen table and just laid everything out in my mind. I wrote it all down on paper. The times, the excuses, the changed habits, the bruise, the bathroom calls, the receipt. It looked like a case file. And yet, it still felt like betrayal was too strong a word. Like using it would make it real. I kept wondering, was there a moment I missed? A single turning point? Or was this a slow death I hadn't noticed because I'd been too busy believing in us? And then I remembered something she once told me years ago when we first started dating. "If I ever cheat," she said, "you won't find out because I slip up. You'll find out because I stop caring enough to hide it." At the time, I laughed. I thought it was a joke. I thought we were untouchable. But now I wasn't so sure. There are moments in life that freeze you. Not because of some dramatic explosion or sudden betrayal, but because of how ordinary they feel until they aren't. For me, it happened at a wedding. Her cousin, Lila, was getting married. A small, tasteful outdoor ceremony at a vineyard 2 hours north. The kind of thing where every chair has a custom name tag, and the napkins are folded into swans. Casey begged me to go, even though I hadn't seen Lila in over a year. She said it was important. Said it would be good for us to get out of town. I almost didn't go. Everything inside me told me to say no, to fake a headache, to work late, to avoid another weekend of pretending like we were fine in front of people who didn't know we were unraveling behind the scenes. But I went. Maybe because I wanted to feel normal. Maybe because some small, buried part of me still believed she'd look at me, just once, the way she used to. Spoiler, she didn't. We arrived Friday afternoon. Checked into a little rental house with some of her extended family. Her cousins, her aunt, and this guy I didn't know, older, stocky, clean-cut, maybe mid-40s. He wore a blazer even when it was 80 degrees out. I assumed he was someone's boyfriend, maybe one of the bride's dad's friends. Casey introduced me to everyone with that tight smile she'd been wearing for weeks. We unpacked, ate catered pasta in the backyard. The whole time, she kept checking her phone. eyes flicking down whenever it buzzed. And yeah, I noticed who else kept checking his phone, too. Blazer guy. I didn't say anything. I didn't want to be that guy, the husband glaring at strangers over paper plates. That night, I offered to go on a walk with her. Just us. It was beautiful out. Stars overhead, warm breeze, quiet neighborhood. But she said she was tired, that her feet hurt from setting up chairs. So I walked alone. The next day was the wedding. It was nice, really nice, actually. Lila looked radiant. Her fiancé cried during his vows. For a few hours, I forgot about the tension. Forgot about the receipt. Forgot about the bruise on Casey's collarbone. We drank champagne, danced once, and laughed at the DJ's cringy dad jokes. Then came the after-party. There was this little game, the bride's idea, something called Spill the Secret. You draw a card from a deck, and everyone has to answer whatever's on it. Light stuff, fun stuff. What's your most useless talent? What's your go-to karaoke song? That kind of thing. I was halfway through a glass of red wine when Casey drew a card and didn't immediately read it out loud. She glanced at it, smiled. Not nervously, not shyly. Just smiled. Then she held it up. The card said, "If you could run away with anyone for a weekend, who would it be?" She didn't hesitate. Didn't pretend to think about it. Didn't try to be clever or cute. She just held up the card and said, "Clear as anything, Randy." I froze. Someone nearby laughed. A soft, polite chuckle, like maybe they thought she was joking. Another girl at the table gasped and elbowed her. Casey just sipped her drink, calm as ever. Then she looked across the table. At him. Blazer guy. Randy Hall. The name from the receipt. The man I wasn't supposed to notice. The man she helped book a trip for. The name that had been stuck in my brain like a splinter for weeks. I looked at him. He didn't laugh. Didn't look surprised. He just smiled back at her. Not awkwardly, not nervously, but like they were sharing a private joke. Like this was all some long-running game they played behind closed doors. And I realized, in that exact moment, I wasn't paranoid. I wasn't insecure. I wasn't inventing a story out of scraps. I was living inside one. No one else seemed to catch it. Maybe they didn't know the name. Maybe they were too tipsy, too caught up in the newlywed energy of the night. But I saw it. The look in her eyes when she said his name. Not guilt, not fear, not embarrassment, satisfaction. Like she wanted me to know. Like she didn't care if I did. I stood up. Didn't say a word. Didn't throw my drink. Didn't ask questions. Just quietly pushed in my chair, nodded once at the table, and walked away. I heard her call after me, once. Just my name. Not frantic. Not apologetic. Just curious. Like she wasn't sure why I was walking away. Like she hadn't just detonated the last piece of our marriage in front of a room full of people. I didn't look back. I walked out through the vineyard, past the fairy lights and champagne flutes, and kept going until I hit the edge of the property. Then I stood there, breathing. You always think confirmation will come like a lightning bolt. A text message. A phone call. A stranger knocking on your door. Something undeniable. But for me, it came wrapped in polite laughter and a printed card from a wedding game. And the look in her eyes. That was the part I'll never forget. I didn't drive home that night. After the wedding, I sat in my car for almost an hour with the engine off, hands resting on the steering wheel, staring at nothing. I expected rage to hit me. The kind that makes you shake, that pushes you to confront, to explode, to demand answers. But it never came. What I felt instead was quiet. Clean. Like something had finally settled into place. Confirmation does that. *LLS hope fast. I didn't text her. Didn't answer when she called once, then twice. I drove straight to my brother's place, parked crooked in his driveway, and slept on his couch without explaining anything. When he asked the next morning if everything was okay, I just said, "No, but it will be." When I finally went back to the house, it didn't feel like home anymore. It felt like a set, furniture arranged for a life that had already ended. Casey wasn't there. I half expected her to be waiting, rehearsed apologies ready, face red from crying. Instead, The place was empty and quiet. Her shoes were still by the door. Her robe still hung on the bathroom hook. The bed was made like any other weekday. That's when I started moving. I didn't rush. I didn't throw things. I didn't break anything. I opened the hall closet and pulled out cardboard boxes from the top shelf, the ones we used when we moved in years ago. I laid them out in the living room one by one and started packing her things. Shoes first. Every pair. Labeled the box shoes. Then books, makeup, hair tools, chargers, gym clothes. Every item placed carefully, deliberately, not out of respect for her, but out of respect for myself. I refused to look like a man unraveling. By the time she got home, everything was stacked neatly in the center of the room. 8 boxes total. Clean handwriting on each one. She stopped just inside the doorway, keys still in her hand. "What is this?" she asked. I handed her an envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper. No yelling, no accusations, just 4 sentences. "I know everything. I'm not angry. I'm leaving. Don't call. There's nothing to explain." She read it twice. Her mouth opened, then closed. For the first time in weeks, she didn't have a line ready. "I can explain," she said anyway. Reflex. I shook my head once. "You already did." She asked where I was going. I told her it didn't matter. She asked if we could talk later. I said no. Calmly, clearly, like I was setting a boundary with a stranger. Then I walked past her, grabbed my overnight bag, and left. That night, I slept better than I had in months. Because once you stop hoping someone will change, you finally get your energy back. And I needed all of mine for what came next. I thought it was over. I thought the worst part was behind me. The lies, the betrayal, the long, slow unraveling of the woman I used to know. I thought I had handled it with dignity. Clean break. No scenes. No second chances. Just boxes, a letter, and a door quietly closed. But I underestimated her. The next morning, I got a fraud alert from my bank. At first, I thought it was unrelated, some random security flag, a card skimmed at the gas station or something like that. I opened the email, expecting to hit not fraud and move on. But then I saw it. A charge for $482.96. Hotel Graybridge. Downtown. Upscale. Booked under my name. Same-day reservation. 2 guests. My stomach dropped. I hadn't made that booking. I hadn't even heard of that hotel. I clicked into the details, and what really caught my eye was this. Check-in time, 2:12 p.m. Checkout? 2:51 p.m. 39 minutes. Not even long enough for room service. I called the front desk, said I needed to confirm a reservation made in my name. The woman who answered was polite, too polite. She told me the room had been used briefly, then declined to say more. "Privacy policy," she said. I told her the reservation was made fraudulently and that I needed to know who checked in. She hesitated, then said, "Sir, the guests have already left. If you believe your card was used without authorization, I suggest contacting your bank." That was the moment the pieces started clicking together, because this wasn't for her. This wasn't a secret affair with Randy. This was a setup. Someone had booked a room under my name, left just enough of a trail. A downtown hotel. Time window. Plausible story, Mark's cheating too. It wasn't just cheating anymore. It was damage control. I opened our shared laptop, one she hadn't touched since I asked her to move out, and began digging. Not through her texts or photos, but through documents. I checked the downloads folder, and that's when I saw the file. Settlement_V3. PDF. My heart stopped. I opened it. At the top, confidential draft, property and divorce mediation agreement. Below that, 2 names, Casey Warren and Mark Warren. Prepared by Laura Hale, LCSW Certified Mediator. I skimmed the terms. They weren't suggestions. They were final. Split of assets. Her keeping the car. Her retaining exclusive rights to the house, pending marital conduct assessment. Me vacating the premises. Me assuming full liability for personal expenditures on joint accounts, including this hotel. She'd been planning this. Long before the receipt. Long before Randy. This wasn't messy or impulsive. This was a blueprint. One designed to frame me as the unstable, unfaithful one. A legal smokescreen. A divorce narrative where she was the wronged party. And if I hadn't found that receipt, she might have pulled it off. She could have pointed to a receipt under my name. A hotel stay I forgot to mention. A financial trail leading nowhere real. Her friends could have testified that I'd been off for months. That she tried to make it work. That I left. It made me sick. She wasn't just trying to walk away from the marriage. She was trying to rewrite it. I stared at the laptop, rage rising in a slow, controlled burn. And then I saw something else. A name. Laura Hale. Her mediator. So I called her. When Laura Hale picked up, I introduced myself. Hi, this is Mark Warren. I believe you've been working with my wife, Casey. There was a pause, just long enough to confirm everything. I'm not sure I can disclose. I'm not asking you to, I said. I'm just letting you know. I'm aware of the documents. And the setup attempt at Hotel Greybridge. You might want to check the timestamp on the reservation. I was across town the entire time. Silence. I'm not threatening you, I added. I just thought you'd want to be careful about the legal side of helping someone falsify a marital narrative. That was all it took. 40 minutes later, Casey texted me. We need to talk. Not sorry. Not please. Just that, like a CEO trying to salvage a collapsing deal. That evening, she showed up at the house. She didn't come alone. Randy stood beside her, tight-lipped, hands in his pockets. Didn't even make eye contact. I let them in, said nothing, just waited. She started, Look, I know what you think. I talked to Laura, I said, and just like that, the room shifted. Randy looked at her, realization washing over his face. He left, without a word. She didn't chase him. She just stood there. Shoulders dropped, mouth open slightly. The plan she'd built in secret now scattered across the floor. No more lies. No more deflection. She couldn't talk her way out anymore. And that silence between us? That was the real confession. She returned the next day. Alone. No drama, no breakdown. Just quiet. She walked in, picked up the labeled boxes I had packed for her days earlier, and moved them without saying much. I stood by the doorway, arms crossed, watching the final pieces of our life together disappear. Before she left,